The Community Quilt project is certainly a major part of this year's Priestley celebrations.
Hi, I'm John Bowler. I'm co-chair of a group called Priestley 250, and it's about a dozen volunteers from the community who've come together to celebrate 250 years since Joseph Priestley discovered oxygen. He was living in Calne at the time, living in a house on the green called Priestley House today.
Here's a selection of the attractive submitted squares, all very interesting. Many more will be shown later.
Joseph Priestley used to live in Calne while he was tutoring the Earl of Shelburne's children in the 1700s. The Earl provided Priestley with a laboratory in the library at Bowood where he discovered oxygen in 1774. Well, 250 years later, a group of friends got together and decided that we should celebrate that in Calne this year, as we're known as the town of discovery because of Priestley. One of the events that came up as an idea was to do a community quilt. So I was approached by John Bowler, one of the steering group members of Priestley 250, and he said, did I know anybody that might like to organise a community quilt? And I said, yes, I will. The reason why I wanted to do it is because I loved the film How to Make an American Quilt in the 1990s, and I just thought that was such a great community project where women talked to each other while they were quilting, told their stories. And so that's how it started, really.
Another selection of the wonderful squares. Yes, there are even more to come.
I thought to myself, who do I know that would make this happen? And I belong to two stitching groups. One is In Pieces, which is here in the Free Church on a Friday morning, and the other group is Textile and Stitches around Marlborough, which is more textile art. So I approached Deirdre, Fran and Lindsay, all extremely competent stitchers, seamstresses and quilters, and they agreed to do this, and as soon as they agreed, I knew this was going to happen because they're so good. And then we brought Anne on board too, and Lisa's done a lot of the stitching, and Anne has actually been absolutely instrumental in the photography, in the printing, and the style of quilt. When we got together then, of course we had to think about the style of quilt, so we decided to go for a triptych, which is 3 pieces which can stand alone or together, they make a picture. So that's why we've got 3 hangings, and we decided that we would do a quilt as you go method when we distributed the packs to people, because that means they're quilting, sandwiching the materials together, ready for us to put together with sashing. And then we also, the colour of the quilt was decided to be a representation of the Calne flag. So we've got different tones in green, blue, yellow and white, because they're and proportional to the colours in the flag too.
More examples of the fantastic submitted squares, all produced by the residents of Calne.
Right, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, that's looking okay.
With such a busy event, refreshments for all are certainly appreciated.
When we decided on the colours that we were going to do, we actually went and bought all the material and then cut it into squares. And then we put the packs together. Now, in their pack, they had a piece of coloured material, they had a piece of wadding and a piece of backing material, cut to a specific size. Also in their pack was instructions on how to do this, a template because we did not want them to go outside of their 7-inch square so that when we put it together it's consistent, a form for them to fill in with their name and telephone number, etc., and their inspiration for the piece that they did and what materials they've used. And then in case people really didn't know what to do, we actually we did quite a lot of search on the net and did lots of different templates to give people ideas. Lots of people really came up with some brilliant ideas on their own. And people have used the same picture and actually interpreted it in about 4 or 5 different ways, which has been amazing. And then when they came back to us like this, already done.
Another selection of squares from Calne's talented artists.
After we collected back the embroidered and embellished squares from people, they looked like this. They were in separate layers, and we made sure that everything lined up, and the next job was to stitch round the edges at a given size, so we know that everything will fit together. And here's one that we looked at, that we did earlier, and then of course it was trimmed to neaten it up. So every square ended up the same size and every rectangle fits with 2 squares. Okay, so once they were stabilised with this row of machining, we're laying them out to check where we're going to put each square so that we've got the right balance of colour and designs. And then we're going to put them together with some strips of fabric called sashing. Now this is all cut and ready to go, and this will be used to cover the joins that go between the squares to make it look a lot tidier than it is at the moment and to hold it all together. So that'll be the next stage after laying out the squares, joining them together, which is quite a big job. And after that, we've got to make the back look tidy as well. So we will be making some backings, which will include some slots to suspend the quilts from so that they hang nice and straight. Finally, we will be going round the outside edge of the 3 panels with a binding to make sure that everything is secure and neat around the edges. And hopefully it'll hang straight and it'll look amazing.
Where's it going to be shown?
It'll be, initially it's going to be unveiled in the library, and I'm not sure how many weeks it'll be in the library, a few weeks, and then it'll be moved to its permanent position in the Corn Exchange in Calne.
My name's Lindsay. I was tasked to do the headers for each of the 3 quilts. The first one says the discovery of oxygen. The middle one has the name Joseph Priestley, and on the right it will say Calne 1774 to 2024. The background of these is the same colour as the sashing, which Fran mentioned earlier. It's a blue colour which blends with the bubble print, which blends in with the colours that we have chosen for the squares. Red is the colour that the oxygen symbol is always shown as, which is why we've used a touch of red here, although it doesn't appear anywhere else. It actually adds as quite a nice contrast to the blue. As before, these are backed with the wadding, and they will be stitched, sashed in at the top of each piece.
So since we last left you, that was with we were placing the squares together, so we knew what pattern we were going to have with the quilt. We have now, we then cut the quilt, the squares to the same size. We stabilised them with a stitch around the squares, and then we started adding the sashing, which is this line here, which frames each square. After we framed, and we worked in teams of 3 because we felt that was the most efficient, as someone was helping to feed through the quilt as we were using a domestic machine. After we put the sashing on, we added the header, which is this one here, and we added the footers. After these were added on, we then added the backing. And you'll probably recognise this. This is the backing on a curtain. So this is now a calico pattern backing, so it looks nice and neat. And then lastly, we sewed on the border, which is called a binding. So today we're in the library and we're having a sew-in because we've brought the quilt back into the community, and what we're asking people to do today is to come in and sew 1 inch, 2 inches, 6 inches of the binding. And what will happen is they will be turning it over like this to the back and the hand stitching together, you'll see many photographs of the people that have come in today to help us to make this truly a community quilt. Thank you. So I'd just like to introduce Anne Sartor. So she has been very instrumental in helping us sort out the headers. Anne.
It was a new experience for me, and I tested it out because quilting is a new experience. And yes, I figured out printing a header out on the A3 printer worked perfectly. Everything is in order.
And then you put the material through?
Yeah, put the material through, stuck it onto paper, and then printed it through the printer. As easy as that. It sounds easy, but it was easy.
Throughout the session, several of the ladies sewing experts came to do some final work to build up the quilt. It's hoped this video will explain some of the skillful work involved in creating this wonderful community quilt. What is unseen is the hundreds of hours spent backstage by the volunteer team. Part 2 of the video will be the unveiling of the finished quilt, and this will take place on Saturday, 20th of July 2024.